Friends and learners, welcome to this video lecture on the topic Use of ICT in various types of assessment and evaluation. In this video lecture, we will be discussing about the importance of ICT. We will also discuss about the different types of assessment and evaluation, and we will also discuss about the different ICTs which can be used in the assessment and evaluation. So to start with, we will discuss about what this term ICT is. When we see this term, you can see there are three terms: one information, the second is communication, and the third is technology. So in short, we can say when digital information is communicated using any technological tool, this is nothing but they are ICTs. They are ICT. It's not only about communicating the digital information. We can also develop digital information. We can store that. We can do manipulations, manage it, reorganize it, and all those are possible with the digital information. So when any technological tool or any such resources are used for developing, storing, managing, disseminating or communicating, then we call such technological tools and resources as ICT. As I said in brief, this is nothing but communicating the information using any technological tool. Apart from communicating the information, all those such as creating, disseminating, storing and managing digital information is also served by the ICTs. I hope you have understood this concept of ICT. To make it more clear, I would also quote a simple example. We all are using the mobile devices. If I'm a teacher and if I want to develop a video program for my students, what I'll do, I'll develop this video program using my mobile device. So I'll make use of the camera which is available in the mobile device. I'll shoot the video. Once this shooting is over, this will be stored in my mobile device only. And after shooting, I may realize that the video needs to be edited. I may feel that the video needs to be edited because there are some mistakes in the video. So then editing is also possible with the same device. I may make use of some softwares for that. And after editing, once the video is final, this has to be given to my students. This has to be communicated, disseminated. So then again, I'll make use of some other softwares for that, application softwares. Say for example, I can post this video in my own website. I can use or I can post this in my blog. I can use any social media platforms like Facebook or WhatsApp. I'll just select this video program and post it in my WhatsApp group, which is created for my classroom teaching learning purpose. So what I did here, I developed the video program, edited it, it was stored in my mobile device and it was communicated to my students. And for this purpose, I have used my mobile device and couple of application softwares. So this technological device, the mobile device and the application softwares, we can consider it as ICT. So ICT includes then digital devices and application softwares. So ICTs are not only limited to application softwares. It includes both digital devices such as computers, tablets, smart boards, mobile phones, all those digital devices. And as you are aware, the digital devices doesn't work on their own. We need to have some application softwares for that. So there are different application softwares. In short, we call it as apps. So these apps can be both used in the desktop, laptops, tablets, or in mobile devices such as mobile phones, or we also call it as Android phones. So then ICTs includes both digital devices and application softwares. Some of the application softwares such as the electronic mails, blogs, softwares used for developing websites, social media platform applications, learning management system, different teaching learning apps, quick response codes, audio video conferencing apps. There are many such application softwares. So all these digital devices and application softwares, we call it as ICT. Now let us discuss how these ICTs are used in different educational processes. In general, I would say the educational processes include teaching and learning, teaching learning activities, or it can be, we can say it as teaching or learning. Teaching will be done by the teachers and learning of course will be the job of students. ICTs are also used for assessment. ICTs are also used in managing the different educational activities such as teaching learning activities and the different functions or activities which are there in the educational institution. Say for example, collecting the students' data, storing the fees collected from the students, the examinations conducted. So there are many such activities. ICTs can also be used for that. The next is for professional development. There are many online courses, massive open online course. This is also a MOOC course. There are many such courses which are available which can be used for the professional development. So basically in educational processes for these activities ICTs are used. And in this video lecture I'll be focusing on how we can use ICTs for assessment. Assessment, by that I mean a teacher will be teaching the students and the teacher of course need to see whether the teacher that is teaching in the classroom, the subject that is teaching in the classroom is understood by the students. So for that ICTs are used. What was happening in traditional teaching learning classroom? A teacher will be teaching the students, then the teacher will be asking the students and see whether they are following what the teacher is teaching, or the teacher will make use of pen and paper or pencil and paper tests. So this is the traditional kind of examination or assessment. Now in place of this verbal questioning or pen and paper or pencil and paper test, this is shifting to what we say ICT mediated assessment or technology mediated assessment. So in place of this verbal and paper and pen tests, technologies are used for assessing the progress of the students, and this can be done at various stages. Now let us see why this ICT is important in assessment. We will discuss these points very briefly. We will discuss these points very briefly. The first one is it provides a scope for individualized testing situations. As you are aware, all the students are unique. There can have bright learners, slow learners in the classroom. So if I am using ICT for assessment, I can prepare questions in such a way that it will be suitable for bright learners and the slow learners. I can manage my questions. I can frame the questions in such a way that the difficulty level matches to bright learners and slow learners. So provides individualized testing situations. Immediate feedback is possible. See, in a traditional examination, students make use of paper and pen examination style. This has to be evaluated by the teacher and it takes time. But if it is ICT, we have to be in front of the computers or any other technological device. As soon as the student complete the examination, they will get the feedback regarding their results, the questions they have made it wrong, the questions they have corrected. All those feedbacks are immediately available to the students. Then the frequency of the assessment, it can be done multiple times. The next is, of course, the students are digital natives. They love to use technology tools in the teaching learning activities. So when assessment is conducted using ICT, students are motivated. It creates interest among them. They love to attempt such ICT based assessment tests. The next is, this is cost effective because we are not buying anything. We are making use of the available technologies and softwares. When we talk about softwares, there can have paid softwares and free softwares. And there are many free softwares which the teachers can use. So that way then it is cost effective. The next is, this can be attended at any time when the students are free, when they are ready to take examination, they can take. And the next is, it develops higher order thinking and digital literacy skills. As you are aware, when a technology is used for the teaching learning purpose, definitely the digital literacy skills are used, because the students learn many things when they use the technology. So that way it develops their higher order thinking skills also. Now the problems of access and quality are minimized with the use of ICTs. This is always a concern, the quality and access. When ICTs are used for teaching learning purpose, of course, this is reaching to many students. We can develop high quality examinations also. So access and quality is always what we say, it is enhanced. The problem is that way minimized. It also caters to multiple audiences. There are different types of students, different levels of students. When ICT based assessment is prepared, we can cater to all those different types of students. So friends, I hope you have understood. These are some of the points which we can keep in mind when we talk about why ICT is considered important in the assessment processes. Now we will talk about the different types of assessment. See, in general, when in a teaching learning process, assessment is done at 3 points, 3 times, maybe we can say that way also. One at the beginning of the teaching learning session, the other is in between the teaching learning session, and the other is assessment conducted at the end of the teaching learning session. So accordingly, we have what we say assessment of, so accordingly there are different types of assessment. The different types of assessment are assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. We will discuss these types of assessment in detail. The first one is assessment of learning. What is this? I would make it very brief and simple. See, a teacher coming to the classroom, engaging the students in the teaching learning activities. Usually the classroom hours is, maybe it can be from 40 to 45 minutes or 1 hour duration. Once the teaching learning activity is completed, teacher will see whether the students have understood what the teacher was teaching in the classroom. So this is done at the end of the teaching session. So we can say such assessment as summative assessment. So when the assessment is done at the end of the teaching session, we call it as assessment of learning. One of the examples we can quote for this assessment of learning is the term end examination that is conducted in the schools or higher education institutions, or the unit end examination, or we can say the quarterly, half-yearly examination. This is done after completion of particular number of units, or after the completion of 4 or 5 months of learning, or at the end of the year, when a student completes a complete academic year. So when such assessment is conducted at the end of the academic year or at the end of the teaching learning session, we call it as assessment of learning. The second one is assessment for learning. Assessment for learning is done during the teaching learning activities. Say for example, as a physics teacher, I am teaching a concept of velocity, and I may take some 10 to 15 minutes for teaching that particular concept. Once that is done, once I complete the teaching learning activity, or once I complete the teaching of the concept of velocity, I'll see whether the students have understood this concept. So then I may make use of verbal questioning, which is the simplest mode of assessing the students. So when I do such assessment during the teaching learning activity, this is called assessment for learning. This is also called what we say formative assessment. So friends, till now we have discussed about assessment of learning and assessment for learning. Now we will talk about assessment as learning, which is the third category of assessment. See, the assessment of learning and assessment for learning was done by the teacher. The teacher usually checks the progress of the students. When this opportunity is given to the students, this is what is called the assessment as learning. Students themselves assess their progress. So maybe, say for example, I am teaching again the concept of velocity, and after teaching I'll ask my students to reflect on their learning, and I'll give some time for my students to reflect. So while reflecting, they can see whether they have understood, whether the students have understood the concept of velocity or any such concepts. So when the students make use of this type of assessment techniques, we call it as assessment as learning. So this is basically a kind of a self-assessment which would help the learners to know whether they have understood or whether they have learned. So we have covered the different types of assessment: assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. We also have different types of evaluation. One is the diagnostic evaluation, which is done before, maybe we can say, the teaching learning activity. This is also done to determine the learning level of the students. This is done to identify the learning level of the students. So before I undertake the teaching session, I would just check whether the students have some idea about the concept that I am going to teach in the classroom. So I would come to know that students don't have much idea about the concept which I am teaching. So this would help me to determine their learning level. The second one is formative evaluation, which we have discussed or pointed out when I was talking about the different types of assessment. Assessment for learning, which is similar to the formative assessment. This is done during the teaching learning activity, teaching learning process. Now the last one is summative evaluation, which is similar to what we say the assessment of learning, which is done at a particular time interval or completion of a unit or a semester or a academic year. So friends, these are the different types of evaluation. We have not gone into deep. This is just giving an information about the different types of evaluation. Now we will shift our discussion to ICT in assessment. When we are discussing about the assessment practices or ICT assessment practices, we have to definitely discuss about the teacher's role. There are different ICTs, as I said. When a teacher, or if I'm a teacher and if I plan to use ICTs in my teaching learning activity, I have to think of different aspects. One thing is, I have to decide the content topic to be assessed. It's not like all the topics can be assessed using ICT. So I have to think of the topic which can be assessed using any technology tool or ICT. Then I have to identify, the teacher has to identify suitable technologies. There are different technologies, different ICTs. I have to choose the suitable technology for a particular topic or different topics. Then I have to prepare, or the teachers need to prepare different tools and techniques. Thereafter, I need to place the questions. So we have different tools, softwares. I may prepare different types of questions like short answer, objective, multiple choice. Then I will place this into appropriate spaces, appropriate places. So placement of questions. Then I will review the questions. I will prepare the questions, I will place it at appropriate place, then I will see whether it is properly placed, whether the questions are properly developed. Then this will be tried out. This will be experimented on a maybe a couple of students, so that I'll come to know whether there is any mistake in the ICT based assessment tool. So once that is done, my test is ready for now launching, or it can be given to my students. Then I'll go for executing this ICT based test or examination. So friends, these are some of the points which as a teacher we need to know when we are using ICTs for assessment. Now let us discuss about the different ICTs or technologies for online assessment. In the beginning, we were discussing about the different types of assessment: assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. The ICTs or tools which I am going to discuss now, these tools can be used for all the types of assessment or the different types of evaluation also. Say for example, the first ICT or technology, computer assisted assessment. This can be used when I am teaching a particular topic. This can be used for summative assessment. Students can also make use of computer assisted assessment. So when a computer is used for assessing the progress of the students, we call it as computer assisted assessment. Computer adaptive testing is also there. I'll prepare the questions. This will be placed in the software. Then when the students take the examination, when they give a right answer, this will be taken to a question which will be more difficult. If the answer is wrong, then it will be taken to another question which will be of, not that way very difficult. So the computer manages as per the response which is received from the students. So computer adaptive testing is also there. Mobile devices are also used. Different application softwares are there. Just prepare the questions in the application software and this may be given to the students. And mobile devices are used for attempting that assessment or examination. Now there is something called the LMS also, Learning Management System, which is a application software managing the teaching learning activities. We can use LMS also. In most of the LMS there are facilities for preparing examination or test. So LMS based assessment is also there. Concept map also, digital concept mapping softwares are also available. This can also be used. Then online forums or discussion forums are also available. Say for example, as a teacher, I am giving some topics for discussion through the discussion forum or online forum, and all the students will be asked to respond to that. So the responses of the students I can evaluate. So online forum is another ICT, discussion forum is another ICT. Survey tools, there are different survey tools, test making tools, softwares. This can also be used. The teacher can also direct the students to work in the wiki spaces, Wikipedia pages, and their responses can also be evaluated. So wikis can also be used. The teachers can also use blogs. The teachers can ask the students to develop blogs. Then the teacher can also make use of their own blog, teacher's blog. Something can be posted, some questions can be posted in the blog. Students can be asked to respond to the questions. Then their responses can be evaluated or can be used for assessment. Then there are different types of online tools, application softwares. There are softwares for making quizzes also. So in general, these are some of the ICTs or technologies which we can use. As I said in the beginning, many of these ICTs are application softwares, and this work with all the digital devices which we have discussed in the beginning, like computers, tablet, mobile devices, any such digital devices. And the ICTs that we have discussed right now, this can be equally used in assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. Say for example, any quiz making software, teacher can prepare a quiz which can be used in between the teaching session. The quiz can also be used at the end of the teaching session. The students can also use these quizzes during their learning sessions when they are learning. So that way, almost all the tools that we have discussed can be used for assessment of learning, assessment as learning, and assessment of learning. Now, I would also like to discuss about some of the ICTs which can be used for what we say assessment as learning. When we were discussing about the assessment as learning, we have discussed that this is nothing but the self-assessment. When the students check, evaluate, assess their own learning, then such assessment is assessment as learning. And this is usually done, you see, in two ways. One is either checking their own assessment, which is the self-assessment, or the work done by the student can be given to their peers, their friends. Then such assessment is the peer assessment. So some of the tools used for ICT tools used for self and peer assessment are, one is e-portfolio. E-portfolio is nothing but they are the digitized collection of artifacts. This is in brief what we call the e-portfolio. In a traditional teaching learning classroom, what was happening is teachers give different home assignments, project, and the students submit the hard copy of all those activities. If it is a homework, they will do it in the notebook and that will be submitted to the teacher. If it is a project report will be prepared and that will be submitted to the teacher. And the teacher will keep all those activities or the different documents submitted by the students. In a ICT mediated teaching learning environment, students will be preparing all these documents digitally. Say for example, a project report will be prepared either using Microsoft Word or using Google Doc. And this can be sent to the teacher either through mail or some social media platform. And teacher then collects all such digital documents using any particular software. So all those collection of digitized documents, all those collections are called e-portfolio. So this e-portfolio can be used by the students. They can see these digital documents at any time and they will come to know, I have to improve, or I have made mistake when I was preparing such a digital information. So e-portfolio is one such ICT which can be used for self. This can be given to their peers also. A student can give their activities or show their digital documents to their peers or friends. So they can also assess this digital document. The second one is E-Rubric, which is nothing but is an assessment tool for you to assess the performances of the students in different areas with fixing certain criteria of assessment. Very simple. This can be used by the teachers as well as the students. This is same with the e-portfolio also. Students and teachers can use both these tools. And what is E-Rubrics? This is nothing but we are fixing some criteria for assessment. Say for example, as a teacher, I am asking my students to develop an audio program using any application software. So I can assess my students like they will submit the audio program. So I will see whether they have given a good introduction to the video audio program, whether they are talking clearly about the content in the audio program, then they are giving a clear conclusion to the audio program. So I am giving marks to the introduction, then the main part, then the concluding part. I am fixing some mark for each of these points, the introduction and the middle part and the end part. So this way we can fix criteria marked to each of the activities or each of the digital document that they will submit, and that can be assessed. And this is how assessment is done in E-Rubrics. Then there are different, so this is the second ICT which we can use. The third is E-Record. And E-Record is nothing but they are the digital documents. It includes an anecdotal record, checklist, learning log, and such records. We were preparing all these manually. Now we have application softwares for preparing all these records. Now I'll be talking about the ICTs for collaborative learning. Collaborative learning is also highly practiced in the teaching learning practices or in the teaching learning. Students are learning by engaging or engaging in discussions with their peers. The teacher will be giving some direction, they will be sitting in groups, teacher will be giving some task and they will be completing this task. So when they engage in the discussions, they are engaging in discussion with their peers. So this is a kind of a collaborative learning. So how the teachers will assess the collaborative learning? Two tools which are highly used are, one is blog and the other is discussion forum. Blog is nothing but this is a discussion or informational website published on the World Wide Web consisting of discrete, often informal, diary style text entries. So they are nothing but they are some application softwares or website where we can post information. It's just like writing our diary. So if I am a teacher, I have some information relating to the concept of velocity. So I'll be posting that information in my blog. Similarly, the students can also create blog. So the blog entries will be used by the teacher for assessing the students. So this is how blogs are used. Whatever they post in the blog will be assessed by the student. Similarly, the second ICT is discussion forum. This is nothing but this is a meeting place on the internet where people can exchange ideas and opinions about a topic. Very simple. As a teacher, I will be posting some topics for discussion. All the students will be directed to respond to that topic. So the students will be responses I can as a teacher assess and I can give mark or grade for that. So these are some of the tools which we can use as a teacher for assessing the collaborative learning, the blog and discussion forum. So friends, with this we are winding up this video lecture. In this video lecture we have discussed about the concept of ICT, the importance of ICT and the different types of assessment and evaluation, and then we have discussed about some of the ICTs or technologies which we can use for assessment of for assessing the progress of the learners or students. I hope you have understood the concepts that we have discussed. Thank you for watching this lecture.